So welcome everybody. It's lovely to see you on Zoom. We always pretend people are in the room. Okay, so I want you to feel like it is. This is a presentation, but at the same time, if anybody has a question or just pop something in the chat, I know there's a chance for questions and answers at the end. So if it's easier for you, hang on to that, but equally do pop something in the chat if you'd like to. The first thing we always say is we are not the experts at all. We have been delivering Arts Award for, I think it's probably about 10 years, but we're always learning new things that work well, things that we could do better, things that we've really celebrated, things we thought, oh, if only we did that differently. So we really want to be clear that we would never set ourselves up at all as being experts. We just really like the Arts Award. And the reason for that is because it mirrors an artistic journey, of which that is my background. I think most of my work is in portfolios or journals. It's a very journal-based way of working that we have at Skimstone Arts. And also it's very much about looking at the wider arts world and the cultural world that we want to make a difference in. And so in a way, I think we're very committed to it. I think we change our practice and adapt it, which we'll share with you. Obviously in COVID, there was a lot to change and adapt, but we still continued. Because it's very difficult to distill our approach in 20 minutes, what we've done is we're sort of going to give a bit of a general overview of who we are. And then we're going to focus on one person, Philip, who's been very happy to share a video with you. So my colleague Peter and I, who also share a surname because we share a marriage, will actually be inputting into this as well. So who are we? And how do I get to the next slide?
Use the arrows.
Yes, I just have done. Oh, there we go. Here we are. Our mission, as I said, is to support diverse artists and people and communities, anybody really who feels that they're on the edges of society, because society's put them there, not themselves. And we create work together, and we're artist-led. So we're making our own work, and that's why we feel we can justify what asking others to come and work with us and make it with us. And that gets rid of a bit of a sort of an us and them model or way of thinking. So the bottom picture there is me touring a piece of work that was about what it's like to live alone in society. And on the other side, you can see how the wonderful diversity of people that we are lucky enough to have in our company. So what's important about this is when we're asking anyone else to really think about creating a song, platforming a song, singing in public, performing in public, creating an exhibition, we're doing that as well. And we're sharing that in the studio with our young people. So we ask them to sometimes come and see rehearsals. We ask them to think about, if we watch that film, which bits are speaking to them? Is there any more editing? There's a way of engaging what it is that we're doing and the challenges and the struggles and the fear and the all the other stuff that goes into the creating of work as well, around why we're passionate about those themes, why it matters to us, what's the socially engaged element of the work we want to talk about and share and explore, and also other roles around how we have our marketing team, our production team, and so on. We work with real stories and experiences, and those can be our 4 programmed events of the year, our Holocaust Memorial Day events, Refugee Awareness Week. We have our own Unity Festival, which we've just finished, a 2.5-day festival that we had over 3,000 people attend on Zoom, online and in person. And those are the different art forms that we work with. We see the world through the lenses of those particular art forms. So we don't do everything. And you can see here, there's a picture of the band already that we're going to be referring to a little later on. Most of those have done their bronze, silver and gold, but some will be working towards silver or gold. And what we try and look at there is this sort of co-creation approach. So the band, the young people work with us, or we work with them, and it shares much more of an equality and equity as we journey together. But we have to also be very clear where the ownership is and what that means. So During lockdown, finally, our practice changed. We realised that actually what was more exciting was, rather than having our young people performing
Jonathan
over there.
Right. Keep an eye on Neo, because he's not cut this straight at all. Neo.
And also what is important is that through Skimstone Radio, we were able to platform everybody's work through the same same platform. So it gave, again, better equality. So when we were writing spoken word or songs or whatever and putting it out on a national platform or international platform, the songs created by young people or the exhibitions or film were also, along with other communities we're working with, put together. So it just gives that better exposure for our young people's work, and it has to meet that standard, which again helps to really look at quality, and there's a lot of support around that. We embed diversity through all the organisation. We're only happy when we are working with people who can bring such a richness of different cultures, or genders, or faith, non-faith, anything that just helps us to understand each other as being part of a human-led, I hope, as well as artistic-led organisation. So we're going to focus a bit on Philip. Philip was willing to have an initial chat with us, and I really want to be clear that actually there's been no prep for this video with Philip. He has done his bronze and silver with us. He finished his silver a couple of years ago, but he started working in a call centre. And recently, at the age of 20, he has asked to do his Gold Arts Award. And because there's been such a brilliant, in a way, journey of confidence here, we're really thrilled that he has asked to do this. Now, we're conscious that we've got people who are in sixth form and also looking at alternative provision. It's very important to say that all the young people we work with have life challenges that we respect and need to learn from. So those could be around autism. They could be living with autism, living with refugee status, living with anxiety and depression, single mum, possibly with 4 kids, accessing food banks on universal credit, living with different abuse histories and so on, or actually all of those. So we want to be very respectful to when people are giving of themselves extra time to come and do what we think is an important award, but requires thinking and dedication of time and commitment. So this is Philip, and I think it's a really valid question. Why would you do an arts award?
The reason I want to do my Gold Art Award is because since I was a young child, I've wanted to work in film professionally, and doing the Art Award gives us a great opportunity to work with a wide variety of people and to develop my skills, specifically with things like camera work, editing, but also the organisational role of it, which is transferable to many other professions. It gives us the opportunity to work with people of all different professional and educational backgrounds, and which is one thing I love about film in particular, is that it's a very collaborative art form. Okay, I'm going to stop there.
So how do you feel about the fact it's Unit 1 and Unit 2? So Unit 1 is about your own practice. What do you want to do for Unit 1, your own practice?
So I'd really like to develop more screenwriting, as well as develop more production, because I'm always constantly coming up with ideas for films, but I guess I just don't write scripts just because I've never been shown how to write a good script, just because I've never really had the qualification, so I never had the opportunity to do it in previous.
And how will Arts Award help you to do that?
Because I'll get the opportunity to work with people who've experienced who are experienced in writing scripts for plays and films that have been shown at events.
So we got a sense from Philip of what he wanted to do, and how we would then, so we were just beginning this journey with him, where obviously the next thing is to then look at how he's going to organise his Arts Award. The way we work is that we do it all now on portfolios that are on USB sticks that are also kept online and on the computers, so that first thing we do is look at how you organise it. So setting up folders, the Unit 1 folder, the Unit 2 folder, the parts A, B, C, D in Unit 1, and then the A, B, C, D, E in Unit 2. We then share resources. You can see in the corner there of that video, we together look in the advisors hub. We together look at what resources would be helpful. We look at mapping out what it involves, the actual award. So there's a clarification straight away of the journey that someone's going to go on. Now, around that, we encourage the young person to then start really understanding about journaling. So in Philip's case, there's going to be quite a lot of video work. So we ask him to record himself as he goes along with creating work. We ask him, if necessary, to make sure that he's photographing ideas or photographing locations or themes, thinking about his script writing. He's already on the first task I gave him was to research what actually makes a good script. You know, where can you get examples of scripts from? So we started on his unit 1, and he's also got a research task for unit 2, which we'll talk about later. So it's about this sort of example of where, particularly at gold, but also at silver, there's this independent skills. Now, in the diversity of people that we work with, there are others who you would sit with them to begin to do that journey. And I'm conscious of those of you possibly working in alternative provisional schools. Again, you'll have a whole diversity of those who perhaps can work more independently, those who are going to need more input, particularly in those early stages of one, you know, knowing exactly what the different parts are about. So that's our approach to begin with, is the prep on what the Arts Award's about, what do you need, where are the resources? Let's give you those resources already on a USB stick, so you can be looking at the questions, you can be doing some thinking, but also the importance of journaling straight away. Go to the next one. Oh dear, hang on a second.
Some arrows down the bottom you might be able to use.
Is it this arrow here?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I want to go the other way. Oh, there it is, look. No, we've done that one. Hang on a minute. There. So before I hand over to Peter, I'm just going to say that in the Skimstone Arts studios that we have, we try very hard to embed Arts Award into the real practice, because it's a real award that we have. So they will see those of us who are sometimes leading, sometimes not leading. What does that mean? The roles of actually create our own creative practice, and mirror also then is what is happening with roles in other projects that are involved in the big projects themselves. So if we look at unit 1, if I take the band as an example, you can see what those obvious roles are, but actually what we found that the Arts Award has done for us over the last 10 years is really look at more clearly the importance of other roles that we've called less obvious when you first start. But obviously in Skimstone Arts, they meet the marketing comms. As we're talking now, our marketing and comms manager is in working with 2 of the Echo artists who've grown out of the Silver and Gold Award, Art Award, and looking at doing an event plan together. They know our creative producer, they've worked with tech, they've worked with stage managers, because they're around in the company. And I suppose that's where I'm thinking about in schools, and also possibly then with alternative provision, is where are those chances to see some of these roles that you probably already have, or can actually link with cultural partners to go and find out about. But we try and integrate it so that it's much more, all those roles are valued, really, is the way that we approach it. So the reason this is the last slide before I hand to Peter is we also feel that our associate artists who work with us as their professional artists, they mirror not only their own practice, but also some of the leadership skills that we're going to be talking about in this presentation. So let's listen a little bit more from Philip. What about working with another practitioner? What practitioner do you think you might work with? What ideas have you got?
I was thinking Shahor, because I mean we've collaborated previously, but he is great to work with because he is very innovative. He's a videographer, but I've never worked with someone before who really takes the time out to film really well, but also about how they film and what shot will convey the emotion and the message. He's worked in all sorts of environments, and so that would be a great, I think, a great person to learn from. Also, I was thinking you, because you've written plays before, you've written for events that have been shown throughout the country. And also I know that you've got a good experience with developing your characters and also expressing and conveying the emotion that you'd like to convey.
It'll be exciting to develop that together, I think, won't it, Philip? That would be brilliant. So again, this sort of sense of there's a time implication.
What about working with another
My word, you've
practitioner? What
already
was
seen that. There we go. So there's a way of us dedicating time to value the art sword ourselves, and we need to program that into our already, and you'll be the same, really busy timescale. But you do it because it's the excitement of seeing people develop. And actually, we feel it's really important to, again, mirror the fact that we're really looking at emerging artists here, or people who want to develop in their own personal and sometimes professionally. It might just be where you see a massive rise in confidence to go on and do something that's, it could be arts related, it might not be. And again, just thinking about this, you know, in the past, we've done up to sometimes eight awards are quite a lot for the mixed abilities that we and potential that we have. But again, I'm thinking about the time implications for when you're in school and in your sixth form, and also in alternative provision as well. So making sure you think about how you manage your time and how this is balanced, as I say, with the independent work that people will be able to do. So we have dedicated sessions where we're actually touching base to find out how the art sword is going, what's needed. We did that all over Zoom during lockdown, as well as actual sessions where we can see and watch how that young person is developing, or that group of young people are developing. Peter, you're going to talk about, so we're going to move on to about leadership now. And we've had a leadership team for about 10 years, and it's led by Peter, or facilitated, I should say. It's not really led by you, is it, Peter? You tell us about the leadership team, Peter.
Okay, everybody. Hi, I hope you can hear me. I can't, oh, here I am.
Yes.
So hopefully everyone can hear me through Claire's microphone. Please put a message if you can't. So our leadership team is a group of experienced members of the Young Artists Collective, or Echo Artists, who meet each week to discuss projects and gigs, funding, networking, opportunities and matters that are important to the company and to them. So as Claire says, we've had a leadership team for at least 10 years, which basically is involved in just about every level of the company. So the leadership team know about, for instance, funding applications that we make, and they're involved in particularly decisions about the Young Artists Collective and what the Young Artists Collective will do. So any opportunities that come up for the Young Artists Collective are taken to the leadership team and agreed with the leadership team. So the leadership team are the representatives of the rest of the Young Artists Collective.
And who are the Young Artists Collective, Peter?
The Young Artists Collective are a group of young and aspiring artists who work together and collaborate. So some of them play in our band, Reality Boots, some of them work on film, and some on photography, occasionally some on written or spoken word as well.
And they're aged 16 to 25.
They are, yes.
Okay, yeah.
Next slide. Great. So as Claire has mentioned, everybody who joins the leadership team has moved on to at least their Silver Arts Award, and many onto their gold. Sometimes people, of course, have completed both. There are roles, developmental roles within just the leadership team meetings. So you can see a list here of chair, minute taker, and then actually taking forward matters arising from the meeting, such as communicating with other organisations or members of staff in order to organise things. So there are a lot of opportunities for organisational roles within the leadership team, which people join when they're ready to join. So it's an elective thing, and people might be offered a place on the leadership team, but they join when they're ready, basically. And we often have people sitting in beforehand.
And I think it's important. This is a slide that shows the photograph shows they've actually got a meeting with the production, our creative producer here, looking at production for a particular event that's coming up. And again, they're aware of all the staff, because the staff and the leadership team work very closely together. Okay.
So as Claire has mentioned, there are leadership roles are often roles that are a little less obvious. If you, well, in our company anyway, the kind of very obvious roles are creative roles, I guess, because we're an arts company. But the less obvious management and organisational roles, such as event manager, band leader, stage manager, and other members of the tech team. So within our leadership team and our Young Artists Collective, people have that opportunity to take their roles, to take those roles, and of course then document them for their arts award.
And then we've got a really great piece of news to share with you. What's come out of this over the few years, we were encouraged by Arts Council for our Reality Boots to put in their first Arts Council National Portfolio Lottery Grant, supported by mainly Peter and a little bit of myself and the team. And they were successful, which those of you who know how the ACE things work, switch off the recording here, they're a beast of an application, but actually it was very exciting. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this, aren't we, Peter, just because Arts Award was that stepping stone to getting to that point. And as we say, just now, we're able to develop paid roles for those ECHO artists to go on to be doing some of the work that we would have in the staff team otherwise have been doing.
So of course, in Gold Arts Awards, you'd be looking at developing those roles in Unit 2, so those organisational roles, and so we're in a lucky position where, for instance, the band will always have gigs in the year, so those roles will come up, but quite equally, for instance, in filmmaking, there are those roles, for instance, a production manager, which Philip was very much taking in the last film he made with Shahar and John. So, we look for those opportunities for people to do that. So the first steps in doing that, we'll be talking about leadership. What is leadership? What makes a good leader? And inspiring leaders we can think of. So that's very similar also to Silver. Interestingly, for Silver, we had somebody who talked about what an inspiring leader Madonna was, and how she organised her dancers and recognised their skills, and other members of her team, how innovative she was, and yet inclusive. It was
so beautifully shared that we all saw Madonna in a different light, actually. So that was really good. So again, I'm just thinking about, we really like this bit, don't we, Peter? Because we often join in with this one. We all do it together. So everybody gets together to think, again, let's touch base. What is good leadership? And who does inspire us? And I think sometimes it's always good to revisit these together as a whole group. So again, I'm just thinking about those of you working in different situations, in schools and in alternative provision. I always think it's really exciting to sort of see what somebody's thinking is around leadership, and it's a sort of good stepping stone into why we would want to be good leaders. So we've got a little bit more about Philip now. This is where we talked to Philip. So this is right at the very beginning. Philip hasn't begun this journey yet. And it's just really interesting to see why or what Philip sees as being leadership.
So finally, what about Unit 2 then? Unit 2 is about this on leadership. What do we mean by leadership, and what do you want to try and get from doing Unit 2?
Well, I love doing helping organise events, and I suppose being the organiser in various projects.
So what would the role be specifically for the Unit 2?
Well, ideally, it would be good to help make my own film and take on a production role of it, but also help organising events. As I said, the skills are transferable to other fields.
It's a really good point, that. What sort of skills do you think somebody in production, so like a producer, what skills would you need to have or develop?
Communication skills, leadership skills, specifically the ability to be assertive, to organise things, to schedule, because getting multiple people's schedules, that can be a challenge. Also, taking control of the situation, making sure things get done by the deadline.
Great, yeah, great. And as well as the marketing, which you talked about, didn't you, as well?
Oh yeah,
marketing the event.
An event can be great. You could have a lot of ideas for it, but it can only go so far if you don't have the marketing. So yeah, that's a big aspect of it.
It really excites me when I hear this, because we've known Philip for a few years, and I just hearing him so articulate and so clear, but so wanting to get on with his goal is a wonderful thing. He left school early, and I think this is really exciting to see this development. So I think I've already I've just shown you that I've just done the same thing. Here we go. So I suppose before we start talking about the legacies, really, I think it's really important to just get a bit of a sense of, for your situations, where even though we've talked about this in very much an arts-led and an arts organisation, where it's transferable into different settings. So perhaps actually, I'll go back to that one first of all. I think sometimes in other settings, like education settings, it's a really interesting thing to think about the other roles that often are perhaps forgotten, or perhaps Arts Award helps to see the importance of them. Because we often feel that tech teams, for example, often get forgotten, and what it really means to developing your leadership as a technician. We've had people who've done leadership as stage managers, and really getting a greater understanding of what it means to have risk assessments in place, because you've got to keep everybody safe, to look at, I mean, Peter, I know that was one you did, wasn't it, as a tech manager, as a leadership opportunity for somebody. What do you think they learned from that?
I think that I mean, anybody who has done Arts Award with us has done a risk assessment of some sort, and I think for a start, just the necessity to do a risk assessment to raise awareness, but then of course recognising it as part of the process, which you need to go through to put on an event, and to make everybody aware of what the hazards are, and what the dangers that they cause in order to avoid them. So I think in terms of good practice, but also in terms of organisation, seeing the layout of the risk assessment, and making other members aware of them.
So we found that actually this has been a win-win for us, because when we put on events, we've actually got people who are skilled up, who are, if they're still working with us, they may have gone off and worked in other places or whatever, but they can bring those skills. So it's no longer one person just doing a risk assessment. We have a whole team for those who've actually experienced this in their Arts Award, supporting with the risk assessments. So again, I'm thinking about other settings where in schools, for example, possibly with school productions, the importance of that tech team, the importance of actually getting the marketing team involved, what it is to get your production out there, thinking about alternative provision. Is there a cultural venue that actually we can learn from, to work with? With our Unity Festival, we worked with 7 Stories and Brinkburn Brewery and St Silas's Church, and for that it was great actually across those 3 venues to be sharing things like our marketing comms plans and so on, the way in which we have worked together on looking at safety, safeguarding and so on. And so it's just really good practice. So just finishing, we see the Arts Award as being a really good sense of a legacy. We found that those who have done the Arts Award with us, not only have they really grown in confidence, in self-esteem, in a sense of purpose, but they're much more articulate about what they want to do, for example, not just in our company, in other work situations. And this is really important for us. We've already explained about the National Lottery Project grants, which actually should be an MP, anyway. But you can see there's a list of, now, due to the leadership team as well, and leadership teams can be set up wherever you work, this idea of taking minutes, of the importance of sending emails, thinking about when you're organising a tour, this is a real tour now that they, like everything's real, that they're actually going to be responsible for, and they're going to be paid to do it. Now, the Silver and Gold Arts Award was a brilliant stepping stone. They couldn't have just come into that. And I always remember, Jane will probably remember this, when we worked with a brilliant group in Middlesbrough who were undergraduates, who all chose to do their Gold Arts Award because none of that was shared as part of their course. And I think this is why it's really good that we understand the importance of the leadership side. The other legacies that we found is that we've been able to, in some cases, offer actual paid work after they have done their Silver and Gold. So we, for example, have a role called the Assistant Project Manager, and they support other artists to help co-deliver sessions in all sorts of community settings. We've had situations we've paid for them to shadow or be assistant tech for our own professional touring companies. One actually was full tech. They've represented us at major events, so we don't have to, actually we're not needed all the time, because actually the articulate way in which they can present what they are feeling about what we say about Skimson Arts is an ownership thing. And also they take part in other socially engaged projects. I mean, the stewarding that went on as part of Unity Festival was amazing. And I'm going to show you in the next slide. Here's some examples. So you can see with my little arrow, this is representing us at a major event at the Discovery Museum. This was actually two gold artists, Gold Arts Awardian people came and worked with me in a daycare setting when we made a film about the environment. This is presenting work and ideas to the board. And even throughout lockdown, an example of still meeting every week. And this is working with an external evaluator on looking at what went well for a project. So the visibility continues because it's really valuable for us to keep learning together. And we wanted to finish with, okay, Philip, how will you feel at the end of your Arts Award?
So finally then, how do you want to feel at the end of your Gold Arts Award, this time next year, let's say? How are you going to feel, do you hope?
Hopefully to feel like I've developed and my skills professionally, like hopefully that I've improved my contacts for people who I can collaborate with. Hopefully that I've improved, as I said, the skills, like the marketing skills, the organizational skills, my communication skills, and hopefully that I've pushed myself out of my comfort zone.
Fantastic. Well, how exciting. The journey begins.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it.
Oh, that is the last one. There it is. And there he is, as part of a community. And if you knew his background, that is an absolute picture of joy for me to see Philip comfortable in that community. Thank you very much.